what's your journey through it? You said you had another big question that you wanted to ask.
Yeah, I want to talk about, it's not necessarily a question. I think I just want to play around with this topic more of like you were talking about, you painted this like beautiful visual that I felt like I could feel of like your kids on the porch, Desi, like we said he was drawing, Birdie running in and out, you were reading a book, just like a stillness, like a groundedness, a quietude. And then I just love that because I know that it just feels so delicious. Like I know like that, those moments, that's when I'm just like, yeah, I guess I feel grateful to be alive. That's when I'm like, oh, this is what people are talking about when they're on their deathbed and they're like, I'm just gonna miss like small moments. Like it's those, it's like that's something that I don't see. I don't always notice the small moments, but sometimes I can notice those moments where I'm just like, oh wow, this is just like really nice. And then you talked about how, and that was like you were exuding this like peace, or maybe however you want, maybe you were like existing on that timeline, or it was like, your reality shapes itself according to like is to you, like it builds itself around you.
Right, because there's plenty of times that my kid, like Desi's quietly listening to something and Birdie's running around and I can't experience it as peaceful, right? So there's also times where like the same situation could be happening, but I'm like all like spun up.
Interesting. So because I was hearing you say, my interpretation of what you were saying is that they were peaceful because you were peaceful. Like they were
both
more
are true, I guess.
They were more good because like when you were calm, it helped them. It's kind of like being a pet owner. It's like when you're like, and this is so true, like the dogs that are like the chillest have the chillest owners.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
And like if you are like a really, crazy frenetic person, like your animals will be more frenetic as well.
Yes. No, I think that's 1,000% true. I think I'm just doing my paradox thing again, where like, yes, I think because my like peace was so in my body that like I was exuding it for all three of us. And also I think there are times in which that like that kind of like simple joy is there and I am escaping out of it.
Yeah. And so you were able to like actually enjoy it and see it and and experience it. I guess I was really curious about this piece of like being so embodied that it actually has it creates your reality, has a direct effect on the people around you. And I think I've been really interested in that idea because I mean, I don't really know if I have a lot to say, but I'll share my experience. And I don't know if there's, I don't know if I have like, we can just go from there. But when I was in Taiwan, it's just really interesting. So like, I've talked about before how like that can sometimes be a stressful situation, like health stuff and just like sometimes unhealthy dynamics. And my default has always been just to worry. And like, can I be an intermediary? Can I help? Can I fix? Like, how can I make sure everyone's comfortable? Blah, 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 blah. Like the caretaker role. And when I lived in Taiwan, I actually started practicing metta, which is loving kindness meditation. It was, this was one of those, like, I'm humbled to my knees moments where I was like, I'm fucking throwing my hands up in the air. I give up because I don't know what the fuck, I can't do anything. It's out of my control. I keep trying to control things. This is really scary. I'm stressed the fuck out. And, sometimes, and then you get there and you're like, I am overwhelmed. So let me just fucking finally surrender. Like, which is probably what, the universe was pushing me to do the whole time. Right. And my version of surrendering was instead of being like, let me worry about you as a way of thinking that I'm loving you, let me practice loving kindness, which is the practice of like wishing someone, there's different versions of this, but, it's like wishing that they feel peace and health and, that they're free of suffering. And I think it's just such a beautiful practice. And actually, like every time I am like really dropped into it, I just start crying because I think it's just so, it's just so gorgeous. It's so gorgeous. It's like, to be able to just give that love to people really intentionally when you don't know what else to do. And this is very, it's not nothing. It's like more valuable than anything I was doing when I was like worrying, I think. And anyway, so I practiced that, and then I like forgot, and I went back to Taiwan, these past couple months ago, and really got into that, like really got into this practice of like, let me be peaceful, let me like practice my loving kindness, but also like, let me be peaceful. And like, instead of worrying, because again, I fell into worrying, and then I was like, no, I brought myself back a lot faster. And I just really noticed a huge fucking difference. It was almost like, I'm like, is this magic? Like, that's kind of how I felt. Um, God, I could have been doing this my whole fucking life.
Yeah.
And like, when I say magic, I mean, I really mean like, oh, this is like some voodoo shit where I
am emphatically nodding, listeners.
Yeah. Yeah. Like if I can, instead of like replacing worry with just loving kindness, and it almost feels like do you know, what do you call those things, like tuning forks?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
the vibration of one tuning fork, you put it next to another thing, and the vibrations become like a match or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, it's kind of like that. I just kind of feel
Yeah.
like that's kind of what was happening. And I was like, this is cool.
Oh, yes. I love everything you're saying so much, because like, I mean, honestly, like people talk about manifestation, but like, which I don't love that word. You know, anyway, I won't go down that side tangent right now, but like, that's what you're talking about, right? It's like, be the energy you actually want, and then watch the world reorder itself around you.
Yes. Okay, but I'm glad you brought in meditation, because it is an important piece, because I think what I am guilty of, what I have been guilty of, I've known that I've done, and maybe sometimes I don't even know that I'm doing it. This is where it gets tricky. And I also think I see a lot of people doing is, again, we've talked about this before on the podcast, doing something with an agenda. Like, it does not work with an agenda. Like, if I'm like, oh, let me practice loving kindness so that I can get something out of it, so that I can manipulate the situation, so that I don't actually have to worry about you. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say, and I don't love this word, but I think it's relevant. If it's not pure, if it's not clear, if it's not like clear, I don't know how to put it. The vibrance, the frequency of that isn't gonna match shit.
And Queen of Monsters over here wants to say the way that the alternative is not to like then like force yourself to make it like pure, or to like pretend that you're not it's like, oh, I want to practice loving kindness towards my mother, and also I feel so fucking pissed and resentful. And so like, to me, it's like, I'm gonna witness the resentment. I'm gonna let it breathe, because it's already fucking there, right? And like, again, remember, listeners, I'm currently like really extra in love with my mom, so this is a hypothetical. But like I'm gonna witness the resentment and like acknowledge it, and then like, and it's almost like you like take it out of your pocket, and you're like, okay, I see you, you're there, I'm gonna put you on the shelf, and now we're moving, and now we're like turning our attention to loving kindness, if that's the practice you want to use, as opposed to like la 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 la, we're trying to create loving kindness and it has to be pure, and like, fuck off resentment, you're in the way, you're causing problems, or I suppose ruminating on the resentment.
Yeah, you know what's so funny? My version of that is like going into it is like, and this is where I think it's so funny, the traps that we get into, is that once you notice that you have an agenda, go into having an agenda, like allow yourself to have an agenda. I'm like, yeah, of course I have an agenda. I want them to be okay. I want things to be different. I want things to be, but the acceptance of like, which is not the same thing as justification of being like, okay, well then let me do something with agenda. It's the acknowledgement of like, you're human, you're going to have that feeling.
Yeah.
But but like there's something about like calling it out and like bringing it
Yes.
into the light that says, okay, like that's there, but then it kind of, but once you can see it, you kind of like laugh at it and you can say, okay, but that isn't actually my main agenda. My main agenda
Right.
is actually here just to be like, I'm choosing actively not to control this situation and just like
Yeah.
see how it's going to unfold and like, and
Yeah.
send them and be a source of like a tree. I feel like, you know, when I say like being really grounded, I imagine just like a really fucking sturdy tree with its roots going like all the way out to like, you know, the whole city. It's just like one big ass tree that's just like enveloping the whole city. And you're so fucking sturdy that then when shit like comes up against you and like some person who is like really triggering to you, is like they just almost like they match your energy because your energy is somehow stronger. Or maybe it's not that it's strong, but you're not playing into their energy. Then it's like my mom who's coming to me like feeling really dramatic and worked up about something. I think my past would have been, okay, let me match your energy. I'm like, I'm gonna get caught up in this story with you and
I
get
see what
and
you're
go
saying.
and
Right.
instead I'm just
I'm this
like,
giant tree, so I'm not like your like squirrely road rage is irrelevant to me because I'm a giant fucking oak tree.
yeah, or I can hold space for you being a squirrel. That's cool, but I don't
Yeah.
have to. And somehow that's also helpful too, but I don't have
Yeah.
to emulate you and get all worked up too.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yes.
like I was saying, this is a bit of a tangent, but I'm
That's
very
perfect.
I don't know. I've been having a lot of fun with this and I've been like really, it's one of those things too. It's not different from what we talked about before. We always talk about how like it's you create, you know, like you are
Yeah.
the creator of your reality, but
Right.
also but I think, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I think like that was again on this like Thursday, this like incredibly peaceful experience I had. I think what I had been experiencing again when my friends gave me that like magic session that was like the like it was like the integration for the thing that hadn't happened yet, which is like so wild, still blows my mind. Um, from that moment on, I kept having this like really deep and like kind of icky awareness of like I cannot escape myself.
Mm-hmm.
So the other piece, like I keep talking about this language of choosing myself, but the other way I would say it is like, I can't escape me. And also, most of the time, I'm actively trying to escape me,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whether it's like obvious things like, oh, yeah, picking up a phone or like eating sugar because sugar creates its own like little high.
Yeah.
But also, like, what is worry if not you escaping you by thinking?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, basically, all of thinking is escape, you could argue. And arguing it is its own kind of escape.
Yeah.
Ha ha ha. And again, because I was having like this very like visceral felt experience of this, it was like I kept witnessing like I would I would have a like longing for like a friend to text me. And then I would be like, I only want that because I want to not be here with myself.
Mm-hmm.
I could just see that all of the wants were just like, oh, yep, I want that because I want to not be here. Oh, I want another client to sign up because I want to not be here because I want to escape myself. Right. Like I could just see how much in this moment all of my desires were coming from a place of like escape. And so then I just started like not, again, this is a little tricky to put into words, but I'm trusting that I just started looking at what it means to not escape myself, which was fucking terrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the part that I was talking about. That's like hard.
Yeah, it was like really icky and really squirmy. And
but also really loving.
Yeah, eventually.
No, meaning I don't mean it felt loving, but it is such a loving act. It is a loving
Yes.
act. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I also like, this is something you really helped me with when we recorded our like restlessness episode, is I really let it be squirmy. Mm-hmm. So I had previously like bumped into squirmy restlessness and then felt like knee-jerk reaction was to like fix, right? And I just was like, oh yeah, this is fucking squirmy. Ugh,
Yeah.
I'd like to escape myself right now. Fuck.
So that's interesting. Worrying, what is worry if not just escaping yourself? More thinking. I mean, what? That's really interesting because I would love to do a whole episode on worry one day too,
Ooh,
because it is insane. I mean, it's become really apparent to me how I've always known, and then again, I had that experience where I knew even deeper. Like, yeah, I just, as much as it's so strange because I have this story that I'm such a different person than I used to be. And like, that isn't like my MO anymore. And like, it's not even actually as much as a problem as it used to be. And that is so true. And it's also simultaneously somehow also true that I also still catch myself worrying a lot. So both things are existing at the same time.
Oh, same. And then every once in a while, I'm like, have I fucking changed anything? Or am I just I don't know if you have those moments, but every once in a while I'm like, am I actually just as neurotic as I was when I was 22, but I'm like playing this really long charade?
I mean, I hear you, but I have to say, I know I'm not neurotic because I was like, I was yeah.
That usually is what I'm in a like little like swampy, just like funky.
That's true though. You're right. I have actually had that question. Like when I get some, when I like have something triggering happen, I'm just like, oh, I know that this is a really familiar pattern. But yeah, I mean, worry is just trying, like, I have a lot of like compassion for worry because I think worry is just us, it's control. Like worrying, we interpret worry as like we're doing something helpful for ourselves. Like there's this weird mixed wire thing, crossed wires thing, where the only reason we worry is because it gives us a sense of control and we're just trying our damnedest to be okay. And we think that worrying somehow actually helps that when.
And I would also add, I think we feel really unsafe not worrying.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
Right? It's like if you like actually care and then you just like this, like, I mean, it's like a whole like trope of parenting, like to be like, it's a marker of an irresponsible mom to be like, oh yeah, my kid's climbing the rock, they'll be fine, right?
Oh, that is so
or they won't, and then we'll fix that, right?
Yeah, that's so interesting.
But we do that all the time in everything.
You're
like,
speaking to like my main issue is that my issue isn't that like it's not that it's, or I don't know, I will fall into these moments of just incredible peace and then have it be disrupted by, wait, is this okay? I feel like that's something that comes back on the podcast all the time, is that I like somehow reach this ravine and it's like gorgeous. And I'm like, this is exactly where I've wanted to come to. And I feel peaceful and I'm not worried. And then I'm like, wait, but what did you just say? You said it's scary not to worry. And then I'm like, but this feels dangerous somehow.
It feels I think most of us carry like a deeply baked in story that it is actively dangerous to not worry.
That's fucking insane.
Especially because worry is like probably the biggest thing that's fucking us up.
Okay, hold on. I'm writing this down because I think this is like an important note for me to remember. But the reason I think this is one of those wonderful examples of how that demonstrates how humans are actually insane. And that when you notice that you're being insane, it's actually really helpful because then you can see the path to sanity, which is that like, it's dangerous to not worry is just the most ass backwards thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
Literally, my business is to hold space so that you, business owner, can learn to let go of worry, right? Like I ultimately feel like what I teach in a lot of ways is like emotional resiliency in your business, right? Mm-hmm. So like, come here because we all know that worry just gets in the fucking way, and I'm going to hold space and we're going to unpack all the ways in which you think you have to be afraid, and we're going to let go of those fears. That's my job. And I fucking worry about my business all the time.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Of course.
Like it is like I've staked, like I believe in this so fully that I've like staked my livelihood on it.
Yep.
And also I am constantly
and it's still going to come up because it's the most human. It is the most human. Well, one of the most human Well, okay. Actually,
Which I think
Go ahead.
I just give that example because I think it just shows how insane worry is, like, and how like insidious and pervasive it is.
Okay. But at the same time though, because you and I have some real similarities. We have some, I would say we also share some of our, have some similar neuroses. Like, I don't actually think everyone like, I think that we worry. And I think a lot of people worry. I think I am so fascinated by the people who don't actually worry that much. And they are out there. Adam doesn't actually worry, which is funny because he actually has like anxiety, but he worries about like, he'll maybe pick like one or two topics and like kind of hone in on those things. But he's like really not a worry, because I associate worrying with rumination a little bit. Because I think worrying, that is what worry is, meaning it's not, if you just worry one time and it's gone, then who cares? But worrying is this like constant low grade thing.
Oh, okay.
Isn't it?
This is interesting.
And I feel like, yeah, maybe he'll worry about like, I don't know, but like he really is not. My friend Relic, I don't think she's a worrier. Like, I actually feel like I know some people who, like my friend Nicole, not a worrier. Amanda, not a worrier. Sorry if you guys are listening. And we I was just having brunch with her the other day and she was just like, yeah, I just like make plans, make sure that this thing doesn't bother me anymore. And once I have a plan, then we're good. Like, I'd be really curious to know if people who listen, like, I would love to hear from listeners too, like what their relationship with worry is, and like if they are more like us, or does everyone worry? And maybe that's an interpretation that's incorrect.
Maybe this is cynical of me, but I'm really suspicious of this idea that there is anyone that doesn't worry. In part because I'm being narcissistic and I'm like, no, everyone must be like me. In part because I think for a long time I thought that I didn't, as I had an anxiety disorder, I thought that I didn't worry, but it's because my word, like I didn't use that word. I had a very specific small story of what worry was. Like I think I've shared some podcasts where like my grandmother, you'd drive her to the airport and she'd check for her tickets in her purse 10 times. Like, no one's left the car, Nana. And she was still like, you know, and so that to me was like worried. I was like, well, I don't do that, so I'm not a worrier. And then I was like, yeah, but I don't do this anymore. But I was like, oh, but I'm just, my constant mental chatter was a to-do list, a constant to-do list, which was just me worrying about all the fucking things I had to do.
Yep. Yeah.
So I didn't call it worry,
but it was worry. That is worry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's a part of me who's like playing with this idea of like, is all of our thinking worry?
No, I don't think so. Like, I really don't. Like, maybe like depends on what you like. When I think about like I'm thinking right now with you, and I'm not worried. Or like when I think about, I definitely think there's neutrality. There's definitely some thoughts that are just neutral, like for functioning sake. And there's some thoughts that are actually like just stupendously funny.
Yeah,
or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it's that there's varying degrees of worry, because you're right, everyone worries. Like, yes, for sure. Like anytime anyone has like a doubt or something, or there's a problem that needs to be fixed, like, but I think maybe it's like when I said my friend Nicole doesn't worry, like she's, again, also never had anxiety, like never had depression. She's just like so fucking well adjusted. It's so weird. Anyway, and I like love her. Sorry, I just said that with genuine like mystery.
Yeah, no, I'm like, do I know anybody like that?
I had to like ask her like in our car ride one time back from a hike. I was like, do you ever get anxious? And she was like, no, like not really. Like she had to like really think about it. But anyway, she just had a baby.
Just as an aside, this was like an actual very real panic I had. This was a worry when Desi was like just before he was born and just after he was born, as I was like, I'm emotionally healthy. My husband's emotionally healthy. He's a white boy in America, in middle-class America. Like, he's not going to be broken.
Yeah.
Is that
a problem?
Is that like,
totally.
I was like legitimately like, my therapist had to like talk me off the ledge that it was okay if he wasn't broken, because I was like, I don't know people who aren't fucked up in some really big.
Well, to be honest, like I think that's a legit concern, because I think sometimes, well, I don't know if that's true. I don't know. Adam and I used to always have the conversation of like, do you have to go through some type of like hardship in order to be interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I understand how ridiculous that is, because of course that's everything that we strive for. And also some part of me goes, I guess I would understand that. I think that's a legit question to ask.
Right. Yeah. Like all you want as a parent is to like basically like have your kid not be broken by the world as much as possible. And my like number one fear for like 2 months was that like
He's
his
not broken
brokenness was
enough.
that he wasn't going to be broken.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to come back to my friend Nicole now, because again, I'm just so curious about this whole thing. So something that's been so fascinating to me about her whole experience of giving birth to her beautiful baby girl, who's just, I just want to like eat her up. She's just like having the time of her life. I mean, it's not true that she doesn't worry at all. Like, of course she's figuring it out, but I'm like really watching her because I'm just like kind of skeptical. And she's just like, I don't know. She's just like, and it's funny because I also had another friend who gave birth like almost exactly the same time. They're just having two totally fucking different experiences. And the other friend is the kind of experience that I would assume most people have. The one that I have named as the norm, which is like maybe a little postpartum, or just I'm really excited and happy, but also like worried that she's gonna like kill the baby, like that. She's like, how do you keep this thing alive? And Nicole is just like taking her, like she's fucking gonna hike Mount Adams 3 months after giving birth. She's already out there doing crazy ass hikes. She went to a concert with me. She's 2 months out of like, she's just like having the time of, she loves being a mother. She's having the time of her life. And I was like, you're not worried about like taking care of the baby or changing diapers? And she's like, no, like, I just know I'm going to figure it out. I'm just like, amazing. I was like, that's how I like, it's actually been really beautiful to see. Cause I think in terms of like, when I think about, do I want to be a mother or not? I'm so identified with the story of like, oh, it has to be this way. And it's okay if it is that way. I would give myself all the grace in the world, but I think I'm also selling myself short, or just motherhood short, that like, it has to be this painful, completely worrisome thing. And she's offering me like kind of a different, like a whole different template, like paradigm for how it could be. And I'm like, this is really fucking refreshing. And she's not trying to be like, oh, I'm super mom. She's just like having a really good time.
What's interesting, I almost don't want to say this, so that's probably why I will say it, is I'm witnessing how deeply attached I am to the necessity of worry, that I'm like, oh no, that must be superficial. Not, and like that's like not like that's not like a desired thought, right? I'm not like judging your friend, but like some part of me was like, no, that doesn't exist. Like dogs
totally,
that don't
I get
see
it.
color. Like I'm like,
right. No, I get it. I get it. And again, I guess I don't want to misrepresent, because I think she's having, like, I think there's very degrees of how much one worries. You know what I mean? So like, I feel like my story is that if I was a new mother, I'd be worried at like 90%. She's definitely still worrying, but
I think what I'm witnessing
like
is how I think what's interesting is that I'm witnessing a story show up, just a part of me, not all of me, but a part of me thinking, if you are not worried, you're like checked out. That the only two options are like disassociation, or like, right, like basically that the two options of existing as human, not even related to motherhood, are disassociation or like clinging attachment and worry.
Yeah. And that can't possibly be true, because that's
because it's like literally the whole story I just fucking told about my like exquisite afternoon on the porch is the in-between space.
Right.
And then the follow-up is me being like, no, there's only disassociation or clinging attachment.
I mean, I also wonder if it's for her, she like had to go through like IVF and like many different iterations. So like she was like ready for this baby and like
had to do a lot of grieving, I'm sure, beforehand.
Yeah. And also I think like she's ready, and she's just so fucking, like, I think that in itself was already such a journey that maybe having the baby in itself isn't anything in comparison to like before. So I mean, that could be it too.
I mean, I think when I'm between my Desi story and my reaction to this story, what I'm really just witnessing is like how deeply invested I am that worry and problems are required.
Yeah, no,
And
totally.
how like really even as like, yeah, just how uncomfortable I am that like,
yeah. And I'm over here trying to dissect how she's doing it. And like, maybe it's because of this, maybe it's because of this, because I'm trying to like
right,
understand like the template in which she's like living on so that I can like emulate that. Do you know what I'm saying? So like,
right.
but
Yeah.
yes, in terms of this worry, like I'm really excited about this topic of worry. Like, I actually think I would like love to do a workshop, I think, on like worry, because this has just been like, I've been thinking about like, what's the next thing that I want to do? And I just remember my dad always telling me, even when I was like a little kid, like she's like, you're always worried. Like you are worrying too much. Like I was 5 and he's like, why are you like, stop worrying. I was like, what are we going to do next? Like, what's, cause I was just like trying to like keep myself safe or whatever. But
also, I think that's the thing that 5-year-olds do also. Like, aside from being warriors, I've noticed how much there's like this.
oh yeah, okay, let's just talk about that. I noticed that too in my nephews. It's like, how can you be 6 and already be worried? Like,
Doesn't like worry like in the way that we might think. It's like he's like constantly it's a weird thing to be a kid because you don't have power, right? So he's constantly trying to like figure out what we're going to do and when he can put in requests and when he can negotiate and when he can like ask for more. And because he's like trying, what I'm watching him do is try to figure out like how he gets to like be powerful when he's the kid.
that's really interesting. Yeah.
So maybe that, I mean, I guess that's it. Like worry is us trying to like have access to power, but it just makes us feel disempowered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good, beautiful, or like concise way of putting it. I don't know. I feel like we've kind of like danced around this topic of worry, but I don't really know what else I want to say about it except that it has actually been really helpful for me to see how, like, beyond just intellectualizing, but experiencing how not helpful worry is.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I do actually think awareness in itself is enough to just begin to change some things. Like that's why sometimes, depending, but like sometimes awareness is like the whole game, right? It's like, oh, you notice, like this is what I mean when I say you see something clearly, that it's like so obvious that you're like, wait, why would I continue to do that thing that like literally makes no sense anymore? And again, it's not so easy. I'm not like, oh, suddenly I don't worry. I promise you I will wake up tomorrow and worry about 10 different things throughout the day. But there is something also of like really I don't know, just really,
I think
there's something beautiful, I think, replacing worry with surrender and love and possibility, that it's actually going to work out better than you even thought.
Yeah. And not like creating that worry can be neutral. So when it shows up, we don't have to like panic that we're like, we don't have to worry about worry. Right. Like, I think I used to have a story, and actually it might, this might be, anyway, I used to have a story that like the goal was to just never worry. And I think what's shifting for me is like worry's just one of the things, and it's just not being hooked into it. It's just not needing it. It's just not being like defined and controlled by it.
Right.
So like
not having it be the default.
Yeah, and the worry might show up, and I might even like absentmindedly fall into it and then be like, oh, I mean, this is a thing that I experience in my business all the time. Like the worry shows up and I like I'm not really paying attention, and I fall down the rabbit hole, and I'm like ruminating and planning and plotting. And then I'm like, oh, wait, what? We don't do that. And then I just kind of like back myself up and away from like, it's like, I just kind of extricate myself. Rather than like scramble and run away from it.
Yeah.
Like those energies are different,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, totally.
And then maybe also witness like I think also for me sometimes, like, okay, I'm not going to ruminate on like the thinking wise, but the kernel under the worry is that I feel afraid. And can I be in the fear
Yeah.
rather than the worry? Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it is the same application. It's the application of everything, the same stuff that we always talk about, which is like going into it. And or sometimes I think it really can be, it depends, right? Because it's all subjective, and I think different things are helpful at different times, but uh sometimes it can be just a really quick, almost imperceptible letting go.
Mm.
Like, or it can be a really noticeable letting go. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, to be just in real time, I was worried that this conversation was going around in circles, and like, does this make sense? And then I was just like, who the fuck cares? Like, really, like, who cares? Like, I'm here talking about worrying, and I'm like, who cares? I'm having a good time. And yeah,
Mm.
anyway, and it's just funny. Like,
Yes, 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 yes. And I think, can we, so I feel like, mm, I want to speak to this thing about worry, that like the reason I think worry is like a quote unquote problem, or the reason it's so insidious, is because worry pulls me entirely into my mind.
yeah.
Whereas fear, like, it lives in my body. And I
Oh,
think that's
interesting.
why, like, fear will also create story and worry, but like it's a thing that I feel in my body. I don't know if this distinction makes perfect sense, but when I am like full of worry and thought and anxiety, it's an escape. I am not in me. I'm up in my head and in my stories.
Okay, so can
Good.
I just add to that? I think it's
Yeah.
because it's an escape. It's because somehow worry creates a busyness. Like, there's like
Mm,
it's almost active. It's like worry
yes.
is a very active thing. So that's why when you said earlier, it's like an escape, I really related to that, because it's like, oh, I get to not have to be here in my body or with the stuff. It's like it's like almost like it's very tricky. It like tricks you into thinking that somehow
You're
I'm
being
busy.
productive,
I'm busy. I'm
busy.
busy doing this thing, so I can't like feel and be
Yeah.
present.
Yes. 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 Um, because I'm saying all this because I was trying to distinguish, like, wait, why do I fall into fear and like extricate from worry? And I was trying to untangle that for myself. And I think it's because, like, yeah, worry, I think that's exactly it. It's like this buzzy, busy escape thing. And fear is the thing I'm trying to escape.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. This is actually really interesting and really helpful, because then it's like, it's pointing to something that that I think I want to practice more, is that when I notice worry, I mean, and it's actually, no, it's like, I think it's always there. It's like, oh, when you're worried, don't, um, the lure is to get caught up in the worry and then like actively do something, and then like, and kind of go in a circle. Whereas I think the the answer really is just to go into the fear, like,
Yeah.
and be with the fear and like feel the fear and dive into it and explore it. But worry is kind of separate from that. It's like you're not you're almost disassociating a little bit from the
Yeah.
fear.
Yeah. And I think what can be hard, which is why oh, can people still buy Emotional Alchemy, your program?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Yeah, it's on my
everyone should go buy
website.
Emotional Alchemy from Eva. If this is complicated for you, if you're like, I don't know how to feel, if you'll go buy Emotional Alchemy.
That's very
Because
sweet.
I think what can be tricky is like worry shows up and it takes us busyness into the mind. And then it's like, oh wait, I don't want to worry. But we're so out of practice of dropping into the body and the feelings that we're like, well, I don't fucking know what to do other than to push it away and reject it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I
Yeah.
think that's where yeah, everything from the way you teach of like falling into the body and feeling the feelings is important.
Yeah. Kylie's mouthing to her partner.
Nicely.
um okay. I mean, yeah, I have a feeling I'll want to talk about worrying more at some point. I also, but before we like start wrapping this up, I just want to say, or I just want to ask, like, yeah, I'm actually very curious. I think maybe, again, I do want to hear from listeners, or maybe I'll do like an Instagram poll, or it's just like, is it, are there people out there who don't worry? I
Also,
yeah, I guess that's my
because
question.
I'm being like curmudgeonly about this. Like, what are you like? If your answer, what are you doing instead? I guess I like. What am I trying to say? I think that there's a lot of things that we do that we don't call worry.
Call worry, yeah.
That are sneaky worry.
Totally. And I think
so.
Yeah.
I want to invite, and I'm like inviting myself in this too, like to hold myself accountable. Like, what are all the different ways that I'm creating like a busy buzzing escape through my thinking? Because all of that is icky.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point, because I think like there's a real moment of aha there, I think, for a lot of people, because I think what's more dangerous is actually when you don't even notice that you're worrying. Like you think that, oh no, I don't worry, or like you have it under wraps. And I think that's just like a layer of awareness that can be like dug into, or like that can be peeled apart, because
and one question might be like, what are you thinking about all the time? Because there's a good chance that will like point you to, where your ruminating tends to show up, and how and what flavor it has.
Yeah. Thanks for going on that random ass journey with me.
Well, and we very tidily turned this into 2 complete topics, so we made 2 podcasts out of it.
Yay! Look at us.
As Birdie would say, gun gun.
What does she say?
When something makes her happy, she says, gun gun.
Gun gun?
Yeah.
Like G-U-N?
Yeah. G-U-N.
Yeah. Gun gun. Okay, maybe I'll steal that.
And when you would ask her, she would say it all the time. We would say, Birdie, what does that mean? And she would say, it means I'm sad or happy. And then we were like, Birdie, you've never said it when you were sad. Like, you're kind of lying to us. And then there was one time that she went, gun, gun. And Nick and I were like, it's the sad gun.
That is hilarious. And very adorable.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have adopted this. I think that she'll be like 30 and I'll be like, gun gun. It's just a great, it's just a great exclamation of like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah. And I love that you can just like make up words.
Yeah. Oh, she is. If people haven't seen this on my Instagram stories, if I can just for a moment, my daughter has the greatest names for her stuffed animals. She has a flamingo named Armpits. Full stop. And that has been its name for like 3 months now. Like it is solidly Armpits. And then when she's like, I need armpits. She has a dragon named Almond Milk. The kid doesn't even drink almond milk. She's a dragon named Almond Milk. She has a mermaid named Achy. Like my joints are achy the mermaid. This kid,
I love it. She's just taking language and like flipping it on its head, because none of this stuff means. She's probably using language more accurately than so many of us, because it's like these words are just sounds.
Yeah. Yeah. And today I asked her what like a stuffed animal was named, or like what the name of a flower was, and she goes, it's called that. Like she just like literally said like, and started cracking up. Yeah. It's like, see what you're doing. Joke's on me.
How are you feeling, Kyley?
Should we do a round of joy?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Since we're tidily breaking this into 2 episodes, I'm just going to go ahead and use this moment to plug that everyone should go hire Eva to be their spiritual mentor and blow their minds.
Yeah.
And then you should come to Monster School, in which will change absolutely everything. And then you should come to Magic Circle. Okay? Good work.
Done.
All right.
Yes. Actually, since we're at the end, let's do all the things I want to say. Subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. If you feel like you want to leave us some stars on the iTunes, we would be ever so grateful. Share this with your friends or just message us and like start a conversation.
Oh yeah, we love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very true.
Okay.
All
right. Now for joy.
Yeah. You want to go first?
Sure. Yeah. I think this one's been something that I've been just like really riding the wave on. So I'm just want to gush about, I call it like doing green things. I think it's springtime. My joy is like a mix of like all of the green nature things that come with springtime. I'm specifically thinking about how I love how when spring comes, it's a signal that like, oh yeah, it's time to take care of your plants. It's time to like start your garden, because like you're moving with the rhythm of nature, where everything was like dormant and now everything is like kind of waking up a little bit. And I really just, okay, like I think we were talking about this at the beginning of the last episode, about how like we take our passions and we turn them into jobs, and how sometimes that can be dangerous. I was like working in my garden and like on my plants the other day, and I was like, I'm in the wrong profession. Like I should be fucking running a homestead and like doing plant green things. And then I was like, fuck that. I was like, no, I don't want to like, I would hate it if I had to like have it become work, because I just love this so much. But there is a real like passion here of just like, I just feel like myself. And when I'm with my plants and when I'm like have my hands in the dirt, and like, again, it is something about the rhythm of nature of being like, oh, this is the time, like for you plant people, I mean, sure, you guys already know this, but like now is the time to be like cutting your plants, propagating them so that they can grow for the summertime, and then you can make all new plants, which is just like magical to me. And yeah, that's my joy. Just green things.
I love this. I have been enjoying all of the plants in your Instagram stories.
Yeah.
I've been snooping on your plant porn.
I just feel like it is really like it's almost, it's like medicine. It's like, you know, people talk about all the time that plants are healing, and I think that that's just like really true. It's good for my mental health, my spiritual health. Yeah.
I love that. I have outdoor plants feel like a lot of work, maybe because I also have to keep tiny humans alive, that I'm like, I don't have capacity.
That is totally because you have to keep, I mean, the only reason I feel like I can keep all of my plants alive is because I don't have to also shepherd around 2 kids, you know, like, or 1 kid.
I have come actually, like in the space of, since we started doing this podcast, I have come to like really love houseplants, and like increasingly just want to live inside a home full of like 8,000 houseplants. So it's funny, like, so now I'm in this place where I'm like, oh, gardening seems like way too much work, and also I'm like, but like we've clearly already set out on a certain path that ends in one particular place. With the houseplant explosion. So I love your gardening love.
Yeah, me too. And hopefully we'll find more times. Like, I just want to have more people on the podcast to talk about earth things.
Oh yes, send us earth
things.
Garden.
Yeah, plant people. Or, and you were talking about being interested in talking to like herbalists, right?
Yes, they really want to send us are you an herbalist? Do you know an herbalist? I really want to learn more about that.
I love talking to herbalists. Yeah. Okay. All right. What about you? What's bringing you joy right
now? Aside from surviving an emotional existential crisis, which feels pretty good, right? Because now I'm in the place where I'm like, oh yeah, like now we're like, now like we crested the 2, you know, the biggest waves, and now, yeah, you know what? Actually, I think I really have this sense. I have this sense now of like, oh, I'm actually invincible, right? Because over the past few years, like this was like almost like the lingering skeleton in my own, like I knew it was there, but like the lingering skeleton in the closet of like the thing that I hadn't, you know, the box that was still on the shelf. Which is not to say there won't be other like, not to say that there won't be other like big moments of like feeling and complication, but like this was something that was tucked away that I had not been willing to look at.
Yeah.
And now I'm in it. So I have this sense of like, yeah, I am the fucking queen of shadows. Like, fucking come at me, life. Like, I have no thing to fear because I have sat in the space of my scariest fears and turned them into my fucking companions.
Yeah.
And there's this like incredible like gratitude for myself for being willing to be someone who is fearless, and also like kind of a giddiness that's like, oh, like what are we creating next? Like who am I allowing myself to become in this space? Yeah, so I guess my joy is I feel like I fucking love myself. I'm great. That's my joy.
That is honestly one of the best fucking feelings in the whole world.
Yeah. And I don't even feel self-conscious saying that. I'm fucking great, you guys. That's my joy.
And that, yeah, I love that. And also, I don't know, I just I don't know, it just sounds like such a juicy space to be in, that I'm really excited about this idea of like, yeah, that kind of it's like when you feel, you know, people talk about having like when you go through the hardest thing that you think you can go through and then you survive it, you really realize that you are so powerful. And I think you're like sitting in that, and I think that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, and I think also it makes me feel like an even deeper excitement for the space that I hold, right? Because it's like I have lived my own medicine at a like even deeper level this week, and I'm like, yeah, man, like this is it. This is really fucking it. And like, would you also like to have your joy be that you're fucking great? Like, come over here.
Yeah.
I want everyone's joy to be that they're fucking great.
Yeah.
You know. And I can already feel myself wanting to put asterisks of like, oh, you know, next week I'll think I'm not great. But like, I don't know, maybe I'm just gonna
maybe you
think
won't.
I'm great now.
Exactly. Let's like not even have, we don't even have to go there right now.
Yeah.
All right, girl.
I love you. My joy is also you.
Oh.
Yeah. I actually had this like weird trippy moment at some one point in our podcast. You were like looking to the side, and like for a moment, like time collapsed. And we were old ladies doing exactly the same fucking thing.
Oh my God, Kyley.
I know, it made me really happy.
Oh my God.
And I was like, yeah, that tracks that we would be doing literally the exact same thing 40 years from now.
Oh, I'm truly so grateful for you. I don't know where I would be without you. I don't know what I would do without you. I mean, yeah. Without getting too mushy on the podcast, I just appreciate you. I'm so grateful for you. And I love just hanging out with you.
Yeah.
All right, bam. See you next week.